What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Justin, aka No Good Comics, and we are talking about Spider-Man No Way Home. We're doing a review. I have the movie review crew with me here today. Something we literally made up earlier today or yesterday, I guess you could say, and we sound like we are some sort of band, which I'm really excited about. So I have a cool set of panelists here that I'm really excited to have on with me, but let me just bring them all in here real quick, and we will just kind of jump into some things. So we got my man Jason, we got Hailey, we got Alan. What's going on, everybody?
Hello, hello.
Hello.
Thanks so much. Yeah, good. I appreciate everybody, joining me here with this. This was just kind of a thing I wanted to throw together. As I told you all backstage, like I've been talking to each of you as I watched the film Spider-Man No Way Home from Saturday. Was my first time seeing it, and just since then have really got to hear a little bit of your opinions on certain things and a lot of different discussions. So I figure let's have a little party here, and I figure also Tuesday is enough time for a lot of people to have seen it, but I will give a warning for everybody right now who's watching, or if you're watching the replay, we are going to be spoiling this movie. So if you are not trying to hear any spoilers, unfortunately do not watch the show as of right now. Maybe you can come back around to it and catch the replay later, but we're definitely going to get into the details. Oh no, I should also say for the three of you, I put your information in the description below. So everyone watching right now, if you're not following Jason over on Instagram, please do so. Also, Hailey and Alan, they have awesome YouTube channels. I highly recommend checking them out as well, subbing up their channel and following them over on Instagram. That's my kind of warning. So that's all I'm really going to say. So other than that, I'm going to check in with my, let's say hello to the chat here real quick. This is the problem. When I don't have like a plan, this is just like, I'm like all over the place.
We got you.
Let me, actually, before we even get into the chat, let me like address each of you first. So let's go ladies first. Hailey, how are you doing today? How was your day? I know you said you're on vacation.
I am. I have been living the life. Woke up, went to a coffee shop, read,
Nice.
then went to a comic shop and bought a stack of books, came back, made an old fashioned and wrapped like what felt like an eternity of gifts, and then
Nice.
and now I am here.
That
So
sounds
I'm
like the perfect
excited.
day.
It's been really nice. Oh, and there was a nap in between. So
Oh, look at that. Look
better.
at that. Very nice, very nice. Alan, what about you, my friend? How you been? We haven't streamed together since I get some of the Omni X-Men and things like that. But
Yeah,
I see you all over the place. So, yeah, man.
Yeah. Oh, it's been good. Today is my Friday from work essentially, so I also have some time off for Christmas and New Year's. So
Nice.
definitely planning on doing some of what Hailey mentioned. So tomorrow, some reading and some wrapping, and visiting family hopefully soon. But yeah, excited to be here.
Very nice, very nice. And Jason, I'll pass it to you, my friend. We literally were just hanging out earlier today. Got to see the movie a second time, and it was really cool to be able to do it with you going to a local mall here. So how's everything?
Everything's cool. I'm pretty happy. I want to say another thank you. I said this backstage, but I want to do it live. Justin surprised me and gifted me this copy of Uncanny X-Men 129. First, Kitty Pryde and Emma Frost. I still don't have. Well, I have a copy now, but I didn't have a copy. And you remembered, and which was very thoughtful. So thank you so much.
Yeah, man. Dude, absolutely. That's a Merry Christmas to you, man. Because dude, you've been such a huge supporter of my channel and just everything that I've been doing, and obviously we just click with the style of collecting we do and the reading that we do, and kind of the fandom that we are. And on top of that, you've AOK'd a ton of stuff to me over the past year, so it's the least I could do.
Yeah, but that was like for like a lot of giveaways. It wasn't like really like for you personally, So
either way, man. Yeah, dude. Either way, your heart's been in it, and I appreciate you. So I'm glad I could gift that over to you, man. That book, as we talked about, and as you mentioned back when we were at Zap, you're like, that book keeps going up, and you're like, I just got to get that book soon because pretty soon it's gonna be out of reach. And so I'm glad I could send it your way, man. So enjoy it.
Yes, sir.
So very cool. Oh, by the way, I got a super chat here. I want to light this up real quick. We got DJ Links in the house. Appreciate you, DJ Links. Good to see you, my friend. Sends a $4.99 super chat saying greatest Spidey movie of all time. Yeah, I am definitely with you there. It is up there. We loved it. I know we'll get into the details. Thank you so much for that, DJ Links. For that, I'd like to play a little clip here because I always like to play a little something, especially for a $4.99 super chat. So let's throw some Morbius in here. Here you go.
They wanted to join that, crowd and be part of that and say, yeah, you Peach Momoko, Peach Momoko, Peach Momoko, Peach Momoko, yeah, Peach Momoko.
So thank you again for the super chat, DJ Link. Good to see you, my friend. All right,
I thought you were gonna press the button.
I should start doing that with all my super chats. That's a great. I got my hype button here. I'll hit it later. All right. So before we get into everything, again, if you're watching this right now, if you're not subbed up and following these individuals, make sure you do so. Information's in the description below. But let's say a quick hello to the chat, and then we will dive into this movie. And again, warning, spoilers. I'll probably be saying that all night. Just I don't want any excuses later of someone pointing a finger and saying that I ruined things. Yeah. We got my man James Phelps hanging out nice and early in the chat. Good to see you. He says, evening, Justin and the panel. Hope you're doing well, James. Thanks for stopping in. We also have my good friend Unruly Simeon hanging out with us tonight. Good to see you as well. There's DJ Links giving the shout out. Also appreciate you swinging by here. We have our good friend Brian from LCS hanging out with us. Station, my friend. Appreciate you stopping by as well. Mitch Sparrow swinging by. He's saying just stopping by to say hi, but I'm going to go because he hasn't watched the movie yet. So totally respect that and appreciate you just stopping by to say hello. We have my good friend Mark, Legion of Comics, who I know he had recently just done a review, kind of a breakdown of the film as well. So appreciate you swinging by here as well, Mark. Always a pleasure. Let's see, scrolling through. I think I have everybody at the moment. So, but definitely keep it going in the chat. I will throw some stuff up and we'll go from there. What does Legion say here? He says, I'm still waiting on my Christmas book from Justin. Not giving up hope. Oh, yeah, that's good, Mark. Put that out there for sure. I just made the mistake of mentioning how many more copies of that I have for these fine panelists here that I have here. So I guess, I said this in the back before. I don't really have like a script or plan for this discussion. We can go anywhere and everywhere. Warning again, spoilers. We're going to be talking about Spider-Man No Way Home. I guess we'll start with initial thoughts, like just general overview, maybe even a grade. If you want to give it a grade, maybe like a CGC grading, where would you kind of grade this? So I'm going to go ladies first. Hailey, what were your initial thoughts of the film and what would you grade this?
So for my initial thoughts, I don't read any Spider-Man. So I also just went in very much based on what all of the Spider-Man movies that I had seen. I definitely thought that this was maybe the best of the films. I thought that it catered so much to it felt like a love letter from Marvel to any Spider-Man fan. That's really what it came down to for me, and I just appreciated that so much. I thought it was so emotional. It had all the emotional beats and then was funny and action packed. In terms of grade, I would probably give it a 8.5 or 9. I think that there was parts where it just felt a little cheesy or forced for me, but again, sure. I think that's just because I'm not so into the Spider-Man that it just didn't reach that level for me. Sure. But there's other films where I'm oh, I like this a little bit more than that, but I thought they did a phenomenal job.
Fair, totally fair. What's going on, Ryan? Hanging out with us in the chat as well. Alan, what about you? What were your initial thoughts and how would you grade this?
Yeah, so I kind of come from a different perspective, right? So I've been reading some Spidey, and I grew up with the Tobey Maguire movies, right? So from that perspective, I thought this was like Tom Holland is really growing on me. So this I would probably put in my top 1A, 1B of Spider-Man films, mainly because I think just like Hailey, if you come in, regardless of how much of a Spidey fan you are or which movies you kind of grew up with, I think it catered towards all those different groups. And essentially for me, all right, I would give this, if I would say that this is Amazing Spider-Man #1, 9.4, because there's not that many really good books that are like that, but it definitely is special.
Nice.
It definitely is. Yeah.
Love it. Love that grade too. Very cool. Very cool. And Jason, what about you? What were your initial thoughts and where would this grade for you be?
Yeah, so I'm like I totally grew up with the Tobey Maguire movies. That was my Spidey. I'm pretty sure. What was it, 2002? So I was in second grade. So like that was straight up. I was like what 10 years old, second grade, right there. So that's just Spider Man. You know what I mean? And
You're young, Jason.
it was no, it was so it was really nice to see Tom Holland, because I was someone who like didn't mind the whole Tom Holland Spider-Man, but like I definitely had my like reservations as far as the whole Iron Man Jr. aspect, and like getting help all the time and not the true to comics version. And I'm a big reader of Spider-Man as well, but it was a big whole mush of like fan service and like just everything was just, I don't know. For me, everything was pretty close to perfect. So, like, honest grading wise, I'd probably give it like a 9.6, 9.8, like around there. Like, just because like 10 is perfect. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Technically, a 10 is perfect if we're going on that scale, and nothing's really perfect. You know what I mean? This movie wasn't technically perfect, but it was damn close. To that. So, around there.
I think that's very fair, well said as well. And I think to your points, definitely depends kind of when you got into the films, going back to the earlier Sony films, and also if you are like what you've read in the past as well, as to what Hailey mentioned earlier too, because I know for myself, I've never really taken a lot of time to read a lot of Spider-Man stuff. There are a lot of, I'm sure, iconic storylines out there that I've never read. I haven't, not that I didn't want to per se, but just I've been interested in other things, and obviously still very new to comics in general, and trying to keep up on the new stuff, as well as reading like the older X-Men and things like that. So definitely kind of a time thing for me, as I didn't necessarily grow up with Spider-Man. So Spider-Man to me has never been a favorite character. Is not someone I certainly have collected some of the nicer covers and key issues before, but and then even of course with, as you guys mentioned, like the earlier films, I've always been a fan. I've always at least gone to watch the films. I've enjoyed all of them. I will say, and this is, I don't know if this is something I even should say live or not,
Just
but I'm
say,
going to say it
say
anyways.
how you feel.
Let's go for it.
So I never watched the third Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire Spider-Man.
What? You bugging?
Never watched it.
Really?
Never saw it.
Not even like a couple weekends before this movie came out.
Okay,
Like,
maybe you
I
could have kept that to yourself.
Yeah, right. I totally should
Shut
have.
your mouth, honestly.
I
Damn.
totally should. No, so I have caught like pieces of it, and I knew the general idea of it, but I was always, again, before I was into comics, I was always told how bad that film was, and to not bother with it.
Listen. Hold up.
Jason's
It's not a good film. Like as
It's
far
not.
as like if you want to analyze it as far as comic accurate, as far as like casting, as far as if you want to analyze a film, you want to do all that. It's not a good film, but I was in like what year did that come out? 2007, some around there, right? 2007,
yeah, probably around there. Yeah.
I was in like 7th, 8th grade. That was my shit. So like that's always very nostalgic to me. Even what's his face as Eddie Brock, freaking
Topher Grace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah.
We
I will
have
say
this film about that film.
Well, right.
That film.
Right.
Especially that one too. That's
so like to that fact, like some of the characters that we kind of met there, like Sandman, like things like that, I never really got the full. I know Sandman, and I knew that was going to be the case with this, but yeah, never. All right, anyways, we're gonna get off that topic.
So when you saw Sandman, Flint Marko, you were like, huh? Like,
well, I knew him. Like I knew he was that character before, but like didn't know his character.
You were like, oh,
lies.
So the other thing too was like, so I try to stay away from spoilers. I try to stay away from like any hints of even trailers. Like for the most part, I try to not watch a lot of them. I will occasionally, if like if it's DC, I'll watch a trailer or something like that, just because I don't necessarily care as much for it per se. I do like DC, but just like I'm okay with like seeing the trailers. But with the first time I ever saw Civil War, and I know we're getting off topic here, but the first time I ever saw Civil War, I never watched the trailer to it. I wasn't into comics at the time, and I had no idea who was supposed to show up in this film. So if you put yourself in that mentality there and go into watching Captain America Civil War, and then randomly seeing Black Panther show up and Wanda, like all these characters show up that I had no idea were in there, my mind was completely blown. Like, it was such a cool experience that for me, I was like, I want to start doing this for like all these Marvel films, because that feeling of just going in, completely blind, like I want to have that feeling again. So for the most part, I've been trying to do that. And I feel like I've been doing pretty well. I know a lot of people complain about people posting spoilers and stuff on Instagram. I don't know who y'all follow, but I haven't seen anybody post any spoilers.
I didn't see any spoilers either.
Even now, I think it's just the people I follow. I follow some really cool people. Maybe you guys follow go look at my followers. There's some really cool people I follow. But anyway, so my initial thoughts. Overall, loved the film. Thought it was fantastic. I will say, like you said, Jason, certainly not perfect. There are certain things, and even to Hailey's point, like that made it. I could understand kind of where you're putting this grade, and especially with your experience with where you come in with the character and stuff like that. And same thing with me, with my lack of experience, I guess I can say. I still I put it up there as like a 9.2, maybe a 9.4 as a grade. And I will say that I have never cried as hard as I cried at this film. This probably, I don't know if that's something else I maybe should keep to myself, but I have never cried as hard as I cried. So, like Endgame, sure, there were the moments that teary-eyed,
get escorted out,
all that stuff. Yeah, I don't know, like, and I don't know how my girlfriend and I guess I hit it well. From my girlfriend didn't really notice till later, and noticed like my eyes were really red, but like I just kept my head down, and from like the May scene all the way like straight through.
Oh yeah.
To meeting both new Spider-Mans, that like 20 minutes, it was almost laughable that I couldn't stop crying. Like I was like, I'm like, what's wrong with me? Like, why can't I like pull it together right now? Like I completely sober. Like, I don't know. Like, it's just like, so, I don't know. I'm getting older now, getting more emotional. I don't know what it is, but I do appreciate that aspect of myself. And it was, I think I was just so into it. Obviously the acting is amazing. Also, I think like seeing other people cry might get me there too, and the fact that like these, the Aunt May is like, or he's losing Aunt May essentially. And then even like, and I know I'm getting in a lot of the details, but even like the Happy scene where Happy's like, getting arrested within that May scene, kind of the slow motion stuff there, and him just like shouting as they're shooting at him, like all that stuff was like, very emotional. So, but yeah, so I definitely cried. And to me, if I'm trying to rate these movies, like on what movies are my favorite or whatever, if I'm rating them based on what made me, pulled the most emotion out of me, this is up there as like a top 3 film of Marvel, of all films, actually, really, of all films. So that's, to me, says a lot. I do think the beginning was a little slow, and we'll get into some of that stuff. But anyways, that's my initial thoughts there. I want to say a quick hello to some people before we move on. But Kevin hanging out in the chat, Entropy and Comics, good to see you, Kevin. We also have our good friend Dank Comics in the house as well. It says there were like YouTube trolls posting spoiler clips. Man, I did not see any of those spoiler clips. I hope you resolved that or unfollowed them or whatever the case may be. I hope they weren't like close friends of yours, or if they were close friends, you got to yell at them and say, hey, please don't do that again. We got Shattered Glass in the house. Hello, Tyler. Good to see you as well. Again, warning for everybody, like we obviously are speaking spoilers here. So in case anybody's jumping in midway here, Brother Joe, Station Brother Joe, thanks for hanging out with us as well. Inja Binja said hello to earlier. Legion said the action in 3 was off the charts. So okay, so I mean, I'm gonna go back to 3. I'm certainly gonna go back to 3 at some point. If I need to get your forgiveness, all 3 of you. We have Ryan here, Comic Stash, also hanging out. Good to see you, Comic Stash, and Moonlit Comics. Hello, Michelle, Michelle, and Inja Binja, and Nicole. Sheena and J Rails Q, they all had a really awesome Saga show earlier today. So if you guys missed that, go check that out. It was a lot of fun, and you guys did an awesome job. Looking forward to more of that. So yeah, off topic, definitely. I won't get into that now, Comic Stash, but I mean, I don't know if I really even have an answer for that, but I'll talk to you about that later on the side. So yeah, and Michelle here absolutely love this movie. So much to discuss for sure. So let's just kind of jump into some random stuff here. Any one of you want to kind of jump in and share, like, I don't know, what you want to talk about? Is this something you want to highlight, something that you loved, something you cried for? Was I the only one that cried? I mean, were you guys?
Nah, listen, man. I don't want to hear it. Like, listen, the first watch through, I don't care. Like, if you a man and you a tough guy, and yeah, like it's emotional,
Nope,
man.
not
Right?
me.
You tear it up, man. So you're not the only one for sure. Nah, I tear it up the first watch through.
So I thought that Jason, so for those who don't know, Jason and I went to the movies earlier today to watch it for a second time. And going into that, I'm thinking like, all right, I've hung out with Jason. He's a really good friend of mine. I don't know if I'm ready to let this man see me cry or not, but we're going to see how things go down. And I don't know, Jason, I heard some sniffles coming from you. I didn't turn my head, but I did hear sniffles at one point. Otherwise, I kept it together for the most part. There were still like 2 or 3 moments that really like got my eyes watery. Yeah, right. Eyes were watery for just a second, and we'll get into those moments. But yeah, so that's kind of I was curious about how that went. Go ahead, Alan. What were you gonna say there?
No, I was gonna say like yeah, one of the biggest things for me that made it emotional was essentially all of the movies and stuff that we watched years ago, and we might have been our only person in that friend group that was like totally into this. This movie like validated like all of that, right? It said like, hey, the things that you watch and things that you loved are part of like this new family now. So it was like kind of that handover to Tom. And I think it just the one thing that really got me the most, I think, was when we had Andrew Garfield saving MJ and like
so good.
He got it back. Oh man, that was it for me. That really opened the floodgates.
Yep.
Yeah, that was
Agreed.
Such a good scene. I just love that there was like so much redemption for these other characters, like for Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire, just like even stopping Tom Holland from like going in on Green Goblin, William Dafoe, who had like the most amazing performance.
Yeah.
So it was so impressive. So just to jump back really quickly to like whether or not we cried, I surprisingly didn't. I cry at everything, and I think for me that's why this movie kind of probably falls a little bit short for me, just because I watched Infinity War never like knowing anything about the Marvel universe and like sobbed and was like, why am I crying about all of these characters who I have no idea what they're doing and all of that stuff. So my like threshold's really high for that. But I think that's just because I wasn't tied so deeply to Spider-Man's character in general through all of the films. So I love the Tom Holland films. But no, I felt like at the end of it, there was just so much like redemption for all of these characters in the most like beautiful way that really catered to the audience, where you're like, you feel a sense of closure with this film that I don't think happens in most MCU movies, period.
Yep. Yeah, well said. It's definitely it is nice how it's kind of roundabout for a lot of the older films, and just getting that feeling to other than for episode or movie 3 for me, everything else to just kind of see those characters back again was really a nice way to get that stuff back. Yeah, I'm never gonna live that down, I guess. So William, you mentioned William Dafoe, Hailey, and that was so. I was talking to Jason, earlier when we were at the film about this, like, and especially seeing it a second time, like seeing his face expressions and his energy that he was giving to kind of the psychoness that he was just so good and scary. I mean, it was like a horror film. I mean, that those moments were like could be like horror type vibes.
That one scene where I tapped you was like yeah, this one where
when he's like
when they're like when they go down one time like a couple floors, and then like Spidey like jumps on the wall, does some like jujitsu kind of like grab with his like feet on him, and then he starts like pounding him with his like hammer fisting him like this, and he's just like laughing at him. Yeah. And like I was talking to Jay, and I was like, it didn't like the second like in the theater, I didn't get it as much because we watched it obviously, but like on the first watch through, like like for like a second, I got like you get like scared, you get that horror feeling, you know, in your stomach, you know, because he does just an amazing, just psychotic craziness. And I was telling Jay earlier, like that movie Lighthouse he did, the black and white film Lighthouse he did with Robert Pattinson. It's not for everyone. That's a little crazy, but like, you know, that's a film where you see like the craziness, you know, he could really do, and like he's just a great actor, man. Like he was just scary as hell. He's a great Green Goblin. He's the Green Goblin.
Yeah, like even at the end of that, or even like towards the end, seeing him there again, like in the epic battle towards the end there, and just kind of the trash, even before the actual fight breaks in, just his kind of trash talking there and reminding him about Aunt May and that it's his fault, like the evilness. I mean, and the fact that like it's like he didn't age at all, right? Did we say that? Like the guy did not age at all. He looks the same as he did.
Absolute same.
Right? Man, so that was really
also like the way he changes the pitch or tone, whatever the correct term is, of his voice when he does Norman Osborn and then Green Goblin. It really is like a dramatic switch. He knows how to like, you know, like I don't know, really do well, and that was present in the first film too, like the first Spider-Man film.
Yeah, you really see it in his face. I feel like his cheeks.
Yeah.
It reminded me a lot of Heath Ledger's performance as the Joker, like where you see someone in that role who's like performing it to, I think, absolute perfection. I think William Dafoe is like, for rating it 10 out of 10, like I would be like, it's 11 out of 10 for sure. Where I can't actually imagine anyone else playing Green Goblin, because like he is the Green Goblin, and that kind of switch that he did was really, like you guys were all saying, that there's this horror feeling. I also felt like the film did such a good job of humanizing the villains, especially his, because there's so much sympathy within, like when he walks in and you see him with Aunt May and you're like a little nervous. And then all of a sudden, with everything that we as like an audience knows about his character, especially if you've watched the previous films, you're like terrified for her in that moment. And then all of a sudden you're feeling sympathy. It's like an extreme shift. At least I felt, for an audience to make in such a quick amount of time. You're like, oh, okay, like I want him to be like, I want to help, like I want Tom Holland to help him and not get sent back, and you don't want him to die, which I think to be able to achieve that in a short amount of time in the film and then going into that shift was really impressive.
It's a great point.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I was gonna bring up the Joker type of feel, right? Because I feel like exactly like when he was stealing donuts in the background, you're like, oh, like what a goofy guy. And then he just switches. And you're like, oh my God, this guy is really scary. And you know, just a couple years ago, he was like in Aquaman. So William Dafoe was has such a huge range, right? He's like a fish. So now he's Hobgoblin.
I forgot about that.
And I love that comment that was just dropped, where I actually liked how he just showed his face the entire time. He didn't wear a mask. Like I was truly like, he made me feel like how he was feeling, right? Just like those switches of back and forth. And that's when you know, like an actor, and like this is an MCU movie, and like this type of acting, it's Willem Dafoe, so you know, you can't expect any less, but it was amazing. Yeah, it was nuts.
Agreed. I wanted to also mention a couple things. So Michelle, she was also like you said, Alan, like removed the mask. Seeing him in that, in the interest of the movie, definitely awesome there for sure. Brother Joe agreeing here, very touching with the tears. Also, Michelle saying, I just wish we got more Sandman in human form. Yeah, I mean, that's true. We didn't really get too much of that per se.
I think I don't think they like even the last part where like he gets cured, like his human form. I think that's reused footage. Like I don't think that's what I heard. I'm not 100%.
Oh wow.
I could be incorrect, but him and Lizard with the human form later on, I heard that was reused footage, and they just like used their voices because you know how life's been, recent times, and like time was short, and like this and that. But
that makes sense.
I mean, for the time restraints, I thought I definitely was expecting a human Flint Marko a bit. Because when I'm looking at that, when I watched it in the theater with you, when he was in human form, it did look like some scenes in Spider-Man 3, which you wouldn't have any idea of what it would look like because you haven't watched the film. So you couldn't tell. But I could tell because I've watched the film many times.
Gonna remove it.
Okay.
All right, it's our show now, guys.
Voted off the island.
I'm gonna go watch you guys. I'll catch up.
But no, that's but I noticed that it kind of looked like some reused footage from that. But I mean, I could be wrong, but I think that's why.
That
No,
would,
that's what I heard as well.
Right? Yeah, that's what I heard.
that would make sense though, because like those are the two characters where I didn't feel like you were getting as much as the same kind of redemption arc that they were
Yeah.
going for. Like they were searching, like no one wanted to die, but with Jamie Foxx and William Dafoe, it was really centralized on like
Yeah.
trying, or Doc Ock even trying to cure them, and then you have these like moments with Lizard and Sandman, and then they kind of just are in the background, and then that's kind of it.
Yeah, they're just chilling. Yeah,
They're just
hanging out.
like they're over here kind of fighting, kind of doing their thing.
I wanted to ask too about this general story arc. Again, with my lack of knowledge of like the Spider-Man stories, and maybe one of you know about this or not. Like, was the majority of this a comic? Like, were there a couple key issues here that they really took from that have that gave the birth to kind of this film?
Well, as far as like the whole like one more day aspect goes, I know I told Hailey not too long ago, like briefly, like what that story was about.
He shed light onto like my understanding.
The
Nice.
whole like Mary Jane and Peter Parker relationship, like the whole Mephisto taking it away. It's not exact, obviously, but it's funny. I actually have the trade from like years ago that I bought like at a comic shop for like $5. And I flipped through it earlier, and Doctor Strange is in there, and he's trying to help, and he's like, he's doing some stuff, and like you could definitely see a lot of it. A lot of source material was borrowed from that story arc, especially like the ending, obviously, with the whole like forgetting Mary Jane and Peter Parker thing, going separate ways.
Okay.
Like, Doctor Strange is being involved, so I did see that.
Okay.
It's not 1-to-1, obviously.
It wasn't
Nothing
right, but it
one-to-one.
wasn't like random either.
No,
Right.
no, and I think this movie did more than borrowing source material. They like it was again fan service. Like this movie was 20 years in the making technically, because it goes all the way back to 2002 with Tobey's first movie. You know what I mean? With Sam Raimi's, that the first thing that kicked it off.
Mhm.
So I feel like it was more fan service and like trying to like link in what the MCU is doing now as far as like the multiverse and like the Loki show and like WandaVision and like just making everything cohesive and like while also borrowing a couple things to give the fans some bones.
Gotcha.
So,
Well, one of the
everything
things
else.
that I had thought about when asking that question is like the whole thing with Doc Ock when he towards the end kind of saves the day or helps the Spider-Man essentially and turns on Electro. And I just thought like even before that, like when we were kind of getting like he was like on once he got like fixed or healed by Tom Holland with the whole chip in the back of the neck and all that stuff. Like I was still thinking like, okay, Doc Ock, Doc Ock's a bad guy, right? He's an evil dude. He's gonna turn, right? Like there's gonna be something where he turns, and he never turned. Like he stays being this good guy and obviously plays a big role in kind of helping out the team towards the very end.
I didn't think that just because from watching that 2003 or whatever 4 movie, Spider-Man 2, he was a good dude. Like, what I'm saying? Like the chip and the arms and the AI, that's what really messed him up. But he was a good dude. Like, when it comes down to it, and even at the end of the movie, he went out like a good dude.
But but like the comics though, like isn't Doc Ock just a regular villain in Spider-Man? But like
as far
as a bad guy,
as far as my knowledge goes, yes. But like, but as far as this Doc Ock, right? This variant, I suppose, from the Raimi universe from Sony, right? This specific one, he's a good dude. Like at the end of the day, like as far as that movie goes, from his origin, I guess. And like when I watched it and when he popped up, I knew he was gonna do right.
Like turn right. Like I liked it. I like that it did that. It did make sense to me, but I guess I was going back to just thinking of the idea of him being generally, one of the villains, like a Joker or something like that to Batman, like that type of villain where it's just like, okay, so he's gonna be back as bad guy eventually, right? But
wait, can we just acknowledge that whole little 10-second scene where they play the sound the soundtrack from the 2002 or 2003 movie with the Doc Ock movie.
Oh yeah.
And Doc Ock's like, hey Pete, Peter, and he's talking to Toby, and he's like, he's all grown up and stuff, and like that was just beautiful with the exact like soundtrack to go with that.
Yeah.
It was just,
I didn't even realize
unbelievable.
those the exact soundtracks. So like again,
Yeah, you pointed that out to me.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, again, you wouldn't know because you didn't watch the movie, but there's this trumpet theme.
Oh, spoiler.
Like,
Yes.
You know what I'm talking about, Alan? It's like no, that
Yes,
theme.
yes,
I
yeah.
wanted to hear that. I don't know. I just wanted to hear that. Every time I think Spidey, because I grew up with those movies, I think of that. And like that and the Doc Ock theme, the violin little solo or whatever that was. Those two always stick with me every time I'm like reading Spider-Man comics too. Like I'm always like, like mentally like playing that music.
No, I hear you on that. I always.
Hey,
Hey,
No,
we got
but I totally
go in here. Oh, go ahead, Alan.
No, I totally like feel like how you feel, Jason, because I rewatched 1, 2, and 3, and Andrew Garfield's #1 the weekend after I watched the No Way Home, and yeah, Doc Ock, he just picks up right where he left off, because he was definitely a good guy in the beginning, and it was the arms, the tentacles that were like kind of taking him over. But once he got fixed, you could kind of see that great acting by that actor too. You could see how he kind of turned back. So I know that they went away from the comics, at least for his character. Like, and I'm trying to think of like Superior Spider-Man and all of the other ones where there's like a weird different variant of Doc Ock. But I think in general, they just wanted to take from the movies, at least for his character.
Well, there was that nod to the Doc Ock Aunt May relationship when like she was offering him water and like salt water, that joke. She was like, it was real tender and like touching, like she like touched him. She was like interested, kind of like, she's like, you know what I mean? So it was like a nod to their brief relationship in comics, and like there was a lot of fan service.
Oh my
I do remember like,
see, I didn't know that. Yeah, I didn't know that.
I didn't know that. That's awesome.
If you could list the Easter eggs, I think there's like 50 Easter eggs, like
that's
literally,
amazing.
Little things like that.
Yeah.
Even Ned getting the cloak, the cloak saving Ned and dropping him off. That's a nod to a recent comic, Symbiote Spider-Man. I don't know which issue, but then Hobgoblin is like working for like some source, like a bad sorcerer or something like that, and he gets like the cloak briefly, and like there's little nods like that in comics that like
that's amazing.
Yeah, that's in this movie, it's jam packed.
Yeah.
That's so great.
That
I think
very
from
cool.
the little that I knew, it felt so filled, and to know that there's just, which I assume that there was so much more because I hadn't read any of the comics of Spider-Man, that just fills my heart. Like that's amazing.
Why my score is so high, because
that makes so much sense.
Fan
feel really
service
fulfilled
with these other movies and bringing them in, but there are all these Easter eggs to the comics, even little brief things that like, it doesn't really matter, like that Hobgoblin thing with the cloak. It was in one issue, like recently. It wasn't a big deal, but
it feels so big because, like, as you're a fan, you're just sitting there like, oh shit, like they're talking about this or they're nodding to that, and that nothing feels better than watching like an MCU movie and then seeing those Easter eggs and like identifying them and being like, oh my god, they actually did it. They did it. They paid attention, and I think that's what it is. It's like this attention to the detail to the audience, and so that makes a lot of sense. Just like why your scores are really hard. Where so many people's scores, because there's big Spider-Man fans and readers. So I love to hear it.
The one more Green Goblin one. The I'm sort of a scientist myself. Is that line?
Yeah.
When he's leaning up against the wall, there.
Everyone went crazy in my theater.
I mean, listen, this again, we saw it on a Tuesday, after the weekend, so it could have been many people's second viewings, but our audience was so weak, and like,
really?
When that scene came, when he said, "I'm a bit of a sort of a scientist myself," I laughed like loud, and I was the only one who laughed, and I was like, "You shitting me?" Like,
really? The audience at my theater like lost their shit. I will say this is my first like MCU movie where the audience was really engaged. I've never seen, because like I like didn't see Infinity War or Endgame or any of those films in theaters, which I really wish I was into it at that time. But so this is my first film where people like really lost their people were like screaming and cheering and clapping and like laughing, and it was just such an insane experience to go through. At least for like I don't know how used to it you guys all are, or how many films like you guys have seen in theaters that felt that way, but for me, I was like, this is what I've been waiting for, because I would see the like little clips of people going to see Infinity War, and I was like, wow, what it must have felt like to be like a MCU fan at that time. Like I didn't experience that, and so I was just like, on my couch being like, this is the most amazing thing ever. And now I'm like, to be a part of it.
I didn't experience that either.
You didn't?
I was talking to Jay in the theater, and I was like, yeah, I didn't experience Infinity War, the whole Cap getting Mjolnir and like, the whole, I didn't experience that shit.
I just wish.
Those were the most amazing feelings to have. And again, even like going back to the Civil War comments that I talked about before, like Black Panther showing up for the first time, like everybody just freaked out in the theater. And I will say, Jason, as you mentioned, like we saw it today, it's a Tuesday, following the initial weekend of the release of the film. Believe it or not, that is a huge difference in time, where but not even that, like the diest of diehard fans, from what I've experienced, go either Thursday or Friday. Like those are the two key days. Thursday, Friday, very specific. I will say, even this was the first time in a long time that I had to see a Marvel film on a Saturday. And I know it sounds like silly, like I've been spoiled or whatever, but like I usually like really go out of my way to see it on a Friday night, like everything. And for whatever reason, I had a lot of crazy stuff with work recently or the past 2 weeks, and things have just been hectic. So I just like drop the ball with it. But I will say, like, it was a big miss out on my part that I was still hoping, like, okay, we're going to get a good crowd here. And while it was better than the crowd that you and I were in, Jason, my Saturday crowd, it's still, I know it was nothing close to that Friday crowd. And we had maybe half the crowd clapping and yelling or whatever. In the one that Jason and I were in, we had, maybe 20%. I think
our row was the most popping, honestly.
Yeah.
The girl next to
were.
me,
did you guys?
I heard her.
She was.
Yeah,
wild,
we were. Oh, yeah, we were still cheering.
Listen.
Yeah, Jason was super loud. Yeah.
I listen. The reason I said, I understand Tuesday's very, it's very late, and I get
also
that,
it was a 2:30 movie too. That was
all right.
That's a really random time.
The one reason I said that is because when Toby came out of that portal, I was the only one saying Toby and like freaking out, and like even though I've seen it, but like come on, man.
And
like,
it was still. Right.
Guy, you got.
Yeah.
But that's how crazy, like, and I do recommend, and I'm really excited, like, Hailey, that you had gotten that experience of like going early, seeing the movie on a weekend for the first time. And Jason,
I went Thursday night at like
11:30.
Oh,
nice.
p.m. I was like, we're gonna stay up till like 3 a.m.
Yes, basically. Hell yes. So that's great. So. Yeah, for you to have that experience, like I hope that you go out of your way to do that for every film moving forward. It is such a treat, Jason. I know we've talked about and we tease. We should have talked about this earlier, but Jason had seen the movie before today that we saw in theater together. Jason had watched it at home, and I know, Jason, you have your ways of seeing films on your own terms, right? So when Jason described this to me, he's. I don't want to speak for you, Jason, but I know you say you watch it. I asked you, I said, so what, this is what I asked Jason. I go, so Jason, like, I know you watch this at home. Like, I assume you downloaded it, whatever the case is that I know there's sources.
Stupid questions.
So I'm like, I go, Jason, this is how I picture Jason watching this film on like a Friday night or a Thursday night.
Oh my God.
Cell phone.
On my phone. He asked me if I watched it on my phone. I was like, come on, man. Like,
moving it for extra features,
When he told me that you watched it on your laptop, or when you watched it, I didn't know how. I assumed the laptop. I assumed you watched it on your laptop.
Yeah,
but
she
I was
gave me more
credit.
Hailey gave me more credit. Yeah,
why would you do that to yourself? Like with such an epic ass film. Like, why are you trying to do yourself a disservice and rob yourself of that experience? Like,
honestly, it was really cold. COVID's been ramping up over in Jersey.
That's super fair.
You know what I mean? I was someone sent me the link. Like a friend of mine sent me the link, and it was
You're like, I have it at my fingertips.
It was good quality for what it is. You know what I mean? Like, and it really was good quality for what it is. Like, I got to see everything. I didn't miss any small part. Even the people, like at the end, the multiverse opening up and those silhouettes, I can make out. You know, I even tapped you on the shoulder. I was like, hey, you seen Craven?
So you got to see things that you didn't quite pick up the first time around.
No. I'm saying I even saw that.
Oh, you even saw
Jason was on it on his laptop,
so it was
it's like zooming in.
But the thing is, I got to pause. I got to rewind. When Peter
Zoom in.
When Tom Holland was beating Willem Dafoe, like when I watched that for the first time and like he was laughing and I got scared, I paused. I said, "Hold up." Rewind a couple seconds. Watch that again. I said, "Hold up."
I wish I was a fly on that wall while you were watching on your laptop. Like
Jason taking some screenshots.
So
he's
honestly,
I
had a great time watching it on my laptop. But obviously, the theater experience is the way to go, and that's why I hit up. I personally hit you up. Was like, "Yo, let's do this." You know, let's.
Yeah, and I'm glad you did. And I bring this up because I hope that. With your experience today in the lack of energy that was in the theater, I hope that it inspires you to want to go on a Friday night or a Saturday night in the future, you know, and hit me up, man. Cause no, I get it.
Definitely going to watch the next film on his laptop.
Oh, moving forward. Moving forward. I'm going to drag you out there with me, man. I'll book your seat and everything. We'll get this going.
Jason is like, you're coming tonight, right?
Couple of things here I wanted to quickly highlight. Candace hanging out with us. How you doing, Candace? She says my theater was pretty interactive too. It was both heartwarming and funny how you could tell which people saw spoilers beforehand and which people didn't. Yeah, that's a great point too, Candace. And I know, Candace, you and I talked a little bit about this back and forth. One of the things that I remember when I saw Endgame, and I was with my girlfriend, and the moment where Captain America catches Thor's hammer, I went off, and apparently I was as my girlfriend says, the loudest in the theater, which I don't recall. I barely remember yelling, but apparently she's like, you were like out of your seat, jumping, like throwing your fists in the air, screaming. And like, so to see that, so that was on the Friday night when that movie came out. Then I went back again Saturday to see it again with some other friends. And I remember sitting next to a couple of guys who I was like talking to them before, and like, no, this is our first time just seeing it Saturday. And I remember purposely like looking over during that moment and seeing their reaction and being like, yes, like how they were so shocked. And out of like the one guy just like jumped out of his seat and was just like, what? Yeah. And that was me. And I'm just like, I love that. So again, just going back
to what's funny about that moment right there.
Yeah.
I jumped up when I was watching it on my laptop.
That's great,
because I did watch that one on my laptop.
And that's how great these films are. They still make you do that because they're just no matter what.
Oh yeah, I was in my home, like after watching everything, getting to that moment, I was like, holy shit! And then like my boyfriend's like, what's going on? I'm like, do you realize what's happening on the screen? He's like, no, I don't. And I'm like, it's amazing.
She got the HD experience of me at home, you know, mine's on the laptop. And she's got
aggressively relaxing. He also says he just watched it for the second time. It was such a fun movie. Also, I saw Gore in here. I want to say a quick hello to Gore. Good to see you, my friend. Gore is the best.
He just said, I want to, an earlier comment, he was like, I didn't watch the movie and I'm not going to. And it just makes me sad, but very on brand for Gore.
So he did point out too, though, as we were talking earlier about like some of the ideas of the stories, he talked about Straczynski's One More Day, which I think you guys had mentioned, right? When we were talking about that. But Gore always dropping knowledge. Appreciate you swinging by, Gore. And also Victoria didn't get to say hello earlier, but V hanging out with us as well. And Daryl, my friend Daryl, read your comments. He just got back. He says he has thoughts. Yeah, Daryl, put them in the comment section, man. If you haven't already, I'll definitely light them up for sure. Let's see. V says, I saw it early in the morning session, the night after release, with all the other parents, which was so many kids like mine. It was adorable. Yeah, that's nice. A good time to, for sure, for a good family. So yeah, just my point again, just the experience, like especially now that I've like seen it on a Saturday again. I don't think I'm ever going to do that again, at least not as my first time seeing a Marvel film. I am going to make sure that I have all the reminders set, and whatever it is that it takes. Yeah, like because I love that, and especially like. I'm a movie snob. I told Jason this, like I like to be front and center at the most fanciest theaters that I can go to. The sound and everything has to be right. I get the large popcorn, the large drink, which by the way, I barely eat. My girlfriend eats.
I love this experience for Jason though, because like if he went with you, that means he got that. So he went from watching
it's just like
his
from
laptop
this
to like VIP experience.
And Jason went all out. I'll give him credit because I was wondering, Jason. I was like, I thought like I'm like, all right, man, I might have to buy this man a popcorn or something because I didn't know if you were just going in like I didn't know if how you were going in. But this man went bigger than me. He went with a large popcorn and he got nachos.
Yes,
look great. Yeah, he knew.
Get nachos. If you don't get nachos, then
I give you much credit to you,
the
Jason.
large popcorn. I ate like 3 things because like
that's okay. I barely eat the popcorn. You just buy it to buy it. That's all.
As long as you don't need to use the bathroom in the middle.
Right. Yeah.
No, I didn't go to the bathroom. And yo, hold on. Let me.
I have a story about that.
Let me talk to you guys about something. Because I had like an epiphany at the butter station with Justin. So me personally, I'm a water person. I don't drink soda. I'll drink soda, but like I don't drink soda. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
I'm trying to. Water's the thing. So I go up to the counter. I order my food, right, and then I need a drink, obviously. So I see the waters for $5 for the bottle of water, which is ridiculous, but whatever, right? But it's Dasani.
You sneak
right?
it in. You put it in the bag. You bring in your water.
Hey, listen. If we had a girl with us with like a bag or something, we could have done that. But what are we gonna carry a purse? But,
hey, they have Merces.
It's called backpacks. I don't know.
Yeah, they have a Merce.
It's a satchel. It's where I keep my things.
Hold on. You're getting from the point. You're getting away from the point. So I see the bottle of water is all Dasani, right? And I never really thought about that. So I get the Dasani, and we all know Dasani is shit. It makes you more thirsty. It
what
literally
are you
makes.
Talking about?
You've never heard of that, Justin? You've heard of that? That's why we had this conversation.
Yeah, I know it's of a low quality for sure.
It's a low quality water. It's Dasani. There's sodium in it or something.
But I was over there adding salt to my popcorn, so I'm like, dude, I don't know what to tell you, man.
I did my research. It's owned by Pepsi. I know what I'm talking about. So I was looking at Justin. I was like, listen, man. Obviously, the soda makes you more thirsty, and and the popcorn makes you thirsty. So it's like a never-ending cycle. But even with the water, like AMC has to have a deal with Dasani that just they purposely give you water that makes you more thirsty and it makes you buy more things. That's my little spiel. But I had an epiphany at the.
They're pumping air.
It's like pumping air into
yeah, same thing. Yeah, exactly.
I have never heard this, so now I'm just gonna.
That's crazy. Don't drink
into
Dasani.
My purse, not Dasani.
Just go with the large soda. That's what I go with.
Salt water.
I will say,
salt water.
I will. Yeah. I will say, Jason, you didn't take time to look at the machines. Now you saw that fancy Coca-Cola machine that you could press all these buttons and it's touch screen and there's like a million things. So I wouldn't be surprised. There probably was some decent water. If not, there's the ice.
No, that machine probably does have water.
I'm just saying, like, you probably could get something like that. Real quick, short, like little off story I have to share because of what you said before Jason went into his thing, talking about going to the restroom. This is probably something else I shouldn't share. Not that it's not appropriate, but it's just it's just so funny. So this is with Batman Dark Knight. This is with Heath Ledger Joker, and this was years ago. I don't know what year this was. I don't even know if I was 21 at that time. No, I think I was like 20 years old. And I remember I went on a date with a girl and we bought beer and decided, hey, we're going to go see this movie, midnight screening. So one of the first times seeing like a comic book midnight screening movie. It's going to be awesome. I'm on a date with this girl. This is going to be fantastic. I think it started at like midnight, but we got there at like 10 because we didn't want to wait on too long of a line. So when we were getting there, we're like, well, what do you want to do? We get beer and we start drinking in the parking lot. And so we're just like hanging out, and just like having a beer.
Yeah.
It's like a 6-pack. It wasn't like we weren't going crazy, but a couple beers. And we end up, then we get online, we go into the movie. And, of course, for those everyone knows, it's one of the longest movies that are out there. And I remember, right before the movie started, like, let me go use the restroom, don't want to have to go midway through, especially for this, highly anticipated film. And the movie was so packed that they actually had people sitting on the steps. I remember, because this was before you could like book things. Yeah, and people just wanted to be there and watch this. So
I've been to one movie as a kid like that. I remember. Yeah.
Well, so we're all crammed together, right? And I remember thinking to myself halfway through, I'm like, oh my goodness, I have to use the restroom.
That's also so crazy.
And I
I
go-
just can't imagine a movie theater like fire codes. Like what happened to those? I'm
Oh, it was
so
really bad. Yeah, it was
Oh,
really
it
bad.
was back in the
We
days.
were in
that
Newburgh,
wasn't a
New
thing.
York.
Fire
They don't care
codes?
about that stuff up there. So it's the hood up in Newburgh. So I remember thinking in my head like, okay, I'm gonna wait until someone else gets up first, and then I'm gonna go because I just have to go. Like I can't. So I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna hold it. It's gonna wait. It's gonna hold it. Someone else has to get up. Literally, no one else got up from their seat that night. I was literally the only person to ever do that in that theater that night for that damn movie, and I'll never forget that. But long story short, never go drinking beforehand.
I can't do it. I just like I'll like get drunk and then be like, wait, what happened like 20 minutes ago? I like it's kind of fuzzy. Like what the fuck?
Yeah, look, I was like, in date mode. I'm like, oh, cool, want to impress this girl and all this stuff, and it just was totally backfired. But anyway,
It only happened during Lord of the Rings because those movies are
those are wicked long. Yeah,
those were so great though. Seeing them in theaters, I have such a fond memory.
All right, sorry for getting off track there. I wanted to highlight too. Daryl said here for movie stuff with 5 villains, 3 Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, and regular supporting cast, I felt like it handled it better than I ever would have expected. I 100% agree with you, Daryl. There was a ton of just fantastic stuff as we've been talking about now at this point.
Balance.
Yeah, and to really get back into some of that stuff, I'll throw a question out there, and I'll throw this to you, Alan, first, and we can go around. But who was like your favorite Spider-Man out of the 3 for this particular film? Like, was there an appreciation for one that you saw most out of the 3, or just all of them in general?
So honestly, this is a good point because I was thinking about this. So I would have to say Tom Holland because there's so many Spider-Man and so many characters, but he's carrying the movie the entire way, right? Like regardless of where you are, he's the main focal point, and he did a great job at it. And it's funny because right after that, I would probably say Andrew Garfield. Like a lot of people may not have liked him from the original ones, but he like his continuation from where he was with his previous movies to now is seamless. But I would say honestly, Tom Holland is like now starting to be like my favorite live action Spidey because his story arc is like the other Spideys, like has great response, like with great power comes great responsibility moment, and like his redemption arc in itself, he's starting to grow on me. So I would have to say Tom is my Spidey for this film.
I'm with you there. I totally agree. Hailey, I'll pass it to you. What are your thoughts there with that question?
I agree with Alan. So in general, Tom Holland has been like my favorite Spidey from all of the films, just because I felt like it was the truest to like him being this teenager and portraying that kind of struggle. I also feel like at the same time in the previous films, in the solo Spider-Man films with him, you didn't get to see Tom's full range of like acting ability, and here you really did. From like Aunt May to the end, seeing the range of emotion that he is pushing himself through, and especially at the end with even MJ and Ned when he's like choosing to kind of like let them go from his life, which holy shit, my feelings. But I've seen a lot of his other films. I love him as an actor, but I felt like this is the one that really gave him the most range in specifically its own Spider-Man film. And so I thought he did a phenomenal job. And then afterwards, I would also say Andrew Garfield, like Alan said, I feel like he, again, hit more of a range than Tobey Maguire. Tobey Maguire had a great performance, but when he caught MJ and you saw that emotion come through, and then, just kind of like the comedic relief that he gave to the just like the rest of the cast, like all of those moments was just so funny. I really liked his performance. I felt like Tobey Maguire, I love him for the fact that like that's the Spider-Man I grew up with, like Jason said, but I felt like there was moments where I felt like his acting was a little forced. It just didn't feel as natural and as organic as the other as Tom or Andrew for me.
That's fair. Totally fair. V here in the chat as well, agreeing with what you guys are saying here. Jason, what about you? What which of the 3 kind of stood out most for you, or you were looking, or you enjoyed most?
Honestly, it's hard to pick just because like each Spider-Man like is like in my opinion like at a different stage in Peter Parker's life. Like
True.
Like, obviously Tom Holland's the young, naive one who, you know, hasn't really matured yet and hasn't really experienced loss and, like, you know, like really grew up into that character yet. Well,
Yeah.
after this movie he does, but you know what I mean. And then there's Andrew Garfield, where he has experienced loss. He, you know, he's gone through some stuff, and like he's gone down a dark path, and like, you know, he's a bit older. And then there's old man Spidey, which is like Toby. So it's like,
yeah, old man Spidey.
yeah, and like,
Nice.
and it was like, it's such a nice mix, and like it would never felt like too much packed in with these three, and like the comedic relief from Andrew to like the real, and like Hailey said, like the as far as acting wise, we got more from Andrew as far as like, you know, like a personality in a sense, but I feel like Toby, the role he played in as far as his acting goes, even the whole like it's the whole like mentor thing, right? He's the old man, and like these two are the youngins, and like he's the OG, like even in the film universe, and you know, he's teaching these guys, and like even throughout the whole process of meeting each other and like doing things, Toby was schooling them all, you know, throughout like every little thing. Like even when he met Andrew, when he did that like web thing at each other, he like disabled his thing with his webs, cool. You know, and like it was these little, I just love that how like they hit on that note, has like, this is the old man, and like he, you know, he's gone through all this stuff, right? But, and I said before, I had my reservations about Tom Holland because like he had so much help, and it's a lot different from the comics, but like I was never a person where like, oh, it's not the comics version, like, oh, I don't want that, you know. I was never that person regardless, but I definitely have shifted towards the Tom Holland thing, especially towards the end, where he gets the classic costume where he knows no one, where honestly, like in the first watch through, like I feel like that was the most emotional for me, because like now he has no one. He's in his apartment, he's getting his GED, he's literally no one in his life. Happy's gone, Aunt May's gone, his friends, MJ, everyone's
like
gone.
No one to talk to.
All the Avengers, they're gone. No one knows who he is. And I loved how, like, especially in comics, and I loved how they did this, how like there's always reboot in comics, you know, there's always a reboot what they do, and this was the reboot, you know what I mean? They really rebooted it for the next trilogy, and like, you know, the future or whatever, and like he's alone, you know, he's just alone. So like I definitely I appreciate all of them, but I think Tom, you know, he really grew on me, especially like Hailey said, with his acting skills. He's shown his acting skills in other movies, but not in the Spider-Man ones, you know, like she said. So like I agree with that. So I say Tom.
Yeah. I'm with you guys. I think I mean one of the big, I mean they all it is hard to like say obviously they all play such big roles in this, and but then again at the same time it's like it's Tom's like film essentially, but I will say, like, especially watch me being able to watch it the second time, some things stood out to me more than others, and one of the biggest things from an emotional standpoint was Andrew Garfield, and seeing him again, like as I said earlier, like any of the scenes where he was like crying or just emotional, it like brought like tears to my eyes, or like watery eyes, essentially, like when he catches MJ, or just him like sharing his Uncle Ben story, and like some of that when he first comes in, that was also like you know, emotional to me. So seeing his face, and I personally really enjoyed him from the films that he had done previously. I actually really, and I think it's just because I really like him as an actor in general. A big fan of his with the Facebook movie, Social Network, and all that other stuff. So I think a lot of that plays some big roles there. But yeah, with Tom Holland, I think you know, he definitely being able to see that range that Hailey had mentioned, more so than any other film. I remember thinking that when we saw Endgame, that his when Iron Man died at the very end there, I felt like he missed, like there wasn't quite the like it was, I liked it, but I didn't feel like it was it didn't make me cry, essentially, is I guess what I'm getting at. And maybe that's not just his fault, but it's I shouldn't I shouldn't take that away from Tom per se, but I just feel like that moment was almost cut short because we had to let Pepper in as well, and there was just like a lot of other.
You know what's funny about that, me personally?
Yeah.
When Tom was in there and he was like in the way, I personally thought, I was like, yo, let his girl, like, yo, he's dying, like, let his girl, like, talk to him, like, yo, I understand, like, a mentor, father figure, like, all right, man, but like, let his girl go and like spend some
Right.
time with him, like move out the way. That's how I felt personally.
Yeah. No, it crossed my mind too, because it's like technically all the superheroes were sad. So sure, are we all going to take a turn and like, get close to him for a second?
Like there's no time. Let
but there
his
should
girl
be
go.
Yeah, I felt like there
they
should have
got a
been one
kid
person to do
you
that.
know what
Yeah.
I mean? And
Yeah.
I was like, damn, bro, like he
And-
barely knew where
No,
he
that
was
makes
when he was
sense. I get
speaking
it.
to Pepper.
and again, not to take away from Tom Holland and that acting there, because it was still very good, but I just feel like we got the full sense of it. Seeing his emotion crying when he was sitting on the rooftop in the middle after Aunt May had passed, and even before the other two Spider-Man jump into the scene, just seeing him hug his friends there, and I was completely bawling at that. Like I was ugly crying at that point. And that was just such a heavy scene there. And then of course, the other two come down and then they start sharing their Uncle Ben stories and all that other stuff. And the emotion was just very heavy. So, but to see his face in that scene, and then also just the scene of like holding Aunt May, I feel like up close, especially him being all banged up, his eyes were like bloodshot red. Like I thought they did such a good job of like literally witnessing a man who has just been like through this wicked battle and then lost someone he loved so dearly. That was also heavy, like just all together. So again, just going back to my crying themes here. But with that being said, like I do want to ask you guys, and you can kind of just shout out. I know we're a little over the hour here, and it's I was aiming to wrap this up by midnight or so. We still have another 23 minutes. If anybody has to jump, let me know. Feel free to go if you have to go. I understand. Having a lot of fun. I appreciate you guys going, and everybody in the chat right now. Thanks for hanging. We got 11 people here. Smash that like button. If you're not following these three, please make sure you do so. I wanted to ask you guys, and just again, feel free to kind of shout some moments out. What were some other tearful moments for you guys that really, brought up some sort of some onions being cut in the theater, as I lightly put it earlier?
Honestly, the absolute end when he walks into the diner and he asks MJ about. First of all, Michelle, really quickly, I agree with you. That scene did not get me the way that I thought I would. And then when Andrew saved MJ, I was like, oh my God, my heart. That scene put me in my feels. But I just and I get why he did it. And I understand why it needed to happen, like him walking away. But I just felt so heartbroken for him because like Jason was saying, he's so alone. And I just think about everything that happened at the in these last films, like Iron Man dying, Iron Man, if he was alive, just wouldn't even remember him. He's so alone and he loves MJ so much and Ned. And just to be able to walk away from that, it takes, I think, a lot of strength and courage, but also it's you have no one, that's it. That's so difficult. And so for me, that was the one part where I was like, wow, I just need to go process my feelings and maybe drink some wine and some ice cream and just I really like that.
The kid's 17, so dealing with all this at 17, I can't do that shit.
I don't know how you guys
Sure.
I don't know how you guys feel, but I feel progressively, especially with the Disney Plus shows, I feel Marvel has been really closely looking at the trauma that happens to these people through these films. And I feel the scene that Justin, that you were bringing up where he's alone before the other Spider-Man come in, it's it really shows that pain. And not that we didn't get that in other ways in a lot of it leading up to Infinity War and Endgame, but I really feel very specifically after everything that's come after Endgame has just really been close and looked at it, and even if it's ugly, even if it feels really painful, has looked at it and shown a bright light on it. And I feel they did that with this, even within this movie. And I personally love that so much because it humanizes each of the characters, and especially Tom. Jason, you're saying he's 17, just lost everyone, and then he's also wiped from everyone's memory. I feel at that point, all you would be craving is connection. And he's rejecting that at the end because for the better of other people, what he thinks is better for them. So, oh my God.
Yep.
My feelings.
By the way, Gore, I need to give more people wrenches, by the way. I don't know if you guys saw there was a few fake things going on in the chat there. I removed at the moment, but appreciate you pointing that out. I'll make sure to get that. Definitely gotta get some more mods in here. Maybe some of you guys some wrenches. I appreciate everybody hanging right now. Yeah, well said, Hailey. Any other things? I know we talked about a lot of different things here in general, but any other tear jerkers before we kind of go into some of the more fun or funnier moments that I wanted to add in or talk about? I know there's still so much we could talk about.
Yeah,
movie was emotional.
definitely. Which one?
I said the whole movie was emotional.
Oh, it was.
Up
It
and
definitely
down,
was.
Up and down, up and down.
Yeah. Otherwise, if you want, we can kind of shift gears and talk about some of the funnier moments here that stood out to me, and would love to hear some of the ones that stood out to you guys. I'll start with what I think is one of my favorite scenes in terms of adding some humor into things is when Ned goes to Toby and asks him if he has a best friend. And he just looks at him. He's like, I
He
did.
slid in the rolly chair.
I did.
Like,
Ooh,
And especially watching this a second time around, really seeing how Toby's like working, and he's just like so diligently, like he's like, well, I did have a best friend. He tried to kill me, and he died in my arms after trying to get. And Ned's face is just like. And even in the background, I noticed that Garfield is like looking like in the back, and he's just like, ooh, like it's a rough kind of way to tell him that. Yeah. And then he just rolls off, and then the very next scene, he's just right there, and Tom's like, hey, can you fix this thing or whatever? And he like goes to the computer, he's like, yeah, done. And he just like walks off. So
That was so good.
yeah, one of my favorites. So
for
accurate.
me, one thing, and I mentioned this to you in the theater, and you didn't know what I was talking about, so I want to tell you now.
Yeah.
The back cracking scene, right? The whole comedic.
Oh, that was
Andrew
yes, that's a good one.
Yeah. So Justin, what you don't know is that was a reference to Seabiscuit, the movie Seabiscuit, when it was Tobey Maguire, when he was filming the movie Seabiscuit, he injured his back. So when and he was simultaneously filming Spider-Man 2, I think, or 1, I forget, I think 2. And he injured his back, so like kind of delayed things, and like that was like a slight nod to that, as in like, you know, like he injured his back.
But it was also like him jumping on that car, right? In Spider-Man 2, like when he fell on the car.
Well, I mean that obviously hurt, but
yeah,
I mean, I definitely thought
that's interesting. That's also interesting to consider either way. But he does mention Seabiscuit in that line. Like I hear him say Seabiscuit, and I didn't hear that. I thought he said that because later when you brought it up, I thought I heard him say that. So I didn't know what he was talking about.
I didn't hear. But I know that was like a slight nod to that like time in pop culture where like, you know, he was filming both movies and then he injured his back and Seabiscuit. And
I thought I heard him say, unless I'm thinking of hearing you say that. I don't know. Maybe I'm getting mixed up. But either way, yeah, I didn't really catch that. But that too, to add in is another one of my favorite scenes.
Justin, there's some stuff in the comments.
Standing in. Oh god. Okay. Here we go.
There's like a lot.
Yeah. Oh my god, these are just like pouring out here. I guess I can't give. No, good catch. So yeah, I the one of the other scenes there was when the three of them are together and they're like, they come back together after that initial first take at the battle towards the end, and they are all like scrambling. They're like, sorry, I'm really bad at working in teams. I've never worked in a team before.
Yeah.
Holland's just like, he's like, I don't mean to brag, but I'm going to. I was part of a team once, and yes, I was with the Avengers. And Toby's face, especially seeing it a second time, if you see it, watch Toby's face where he is so happy. He's like, that's amazing. The Avengers. What is that? He's just so.
Is it Andrew and Toby that are like, is that a band?
Like,
yeah.
And that was Garfield's like, is that a band? Yeah, I was just cracking up.
And I love at the very end of that. He's like Peter 1, Peter 2, and Andrew's like Peter 3.
Yeah, he's like, I'm cool too.
Yeah, it's so good. Yeah, the whole thing is like, I thought you were Peter 2. I didn't know I was Peter 2. Like,
and they did two. They did that twice. The 3 Spider-Man meme. They did that twice. The one time where they're like Peter 1, Peter 2,
pointing at each other.
When then Ned was like, Peter,
I love that.
Like, which one? You know,
that is all. That moment was like all my boyfriend was waiting for. He's like, are they gonna do it? Are they gonna? They did it and just like yelled and. That was the way he was waiting for. It was so good. Yeah, it was so good. I died when the web, when like Toby shoots out, they're like, wait, how does it come out? It comes out of you.
How do you
question?
They're like, sorry if it's personal. Am I getting too personal with this? Like, he's like, we think it's really cool. We're not picking on it.
And I love how they Toby references. He's like, yeah, I had a web lock in Spider-Man 2 when he had this existential crisis, and like he didn't know what he wanted to do. So he was like falling, like Alan. Remember when he fell on the car? Like
yes, exactly.
That's
he lost
exactly
his power
why
that
he
time.
fell on the car, because he didn't know if he wanted to be Spider-Man. So I loved these little nods, man. There's like 50 of them to like all these.
It's crazy because
movies.
like I probably didn't catch half of them, but I heard random people laughing at random things, but it's all seamless, right? Like it all like kind of fit into the like nothing's jarring. Like that. Oh, this seems out of place. Everything seems in place.
It's cohesive, definitely.
Yeah.
I also got a kick out of Ned and Tom Holland when he first in the beginning, his name is found out and who Peter Parker, Spider-Man, and they're on the phone together and he's like, dude, they're just literally shouting dude at each other, and then MJ's just like, dude, can we like get off of this thing or whatever? Like just these little things like showing their friendship and their relationship, and I always appreciate stuff like that.
Oh God! And when Ned kind of gave in to the cop, and he's like, "No, I'm like Tom's best friend," and he's like, "Oh yeah, I found out like
the guy in the chair." He's like, "Oh, I got plenty of guys in the chair. Yeah, I get it." Yeah.
Oh yeah, and obviously we got Daredevil. We got Matt Murdock.
Oh yes,
that was fucking awesome. When that happened,
That's a great call.
Also,
so shout
can
out.
we just acknowledge Doctor Strange in this? I feel like he had also his comedic moments when like Tom comes in and he's like, "Wait, you didn't think of just calling the college?" Like,
he's like, he pushes everything aside. He's like, "Let me get this straight."
He's like, hold up.
Yeah, that was.
Oh
that
God,
was great.
That was hilarious.
He's like, "Well, when you put it like that, didn't think that." What about the school shrine that they had built for when he's first entering the school, and the principal is like, the students here had put together this shrine of things for you, and the other guy is just like,
that
no.
guy.
Yeah, he's like, no, you built it. He's like, no, I helped. There were other people too, and meanwhile he's like, we know what you did. We know the truth. Like the one guy was so against him, and then he's just like the guy from the Larry David show. He's just like,
yes,
feel free to swing through or crawl on the ceiling if you like. As you normally do. Like they're still like worshiping him. It's so great.
But then there's like the other guy who's like, no, like you were a murderer. Or just like they're like, shut up.
Yeah, they're like, he's a what do you call it? Like a Department of Truth. What's the word or phrase?
What are you talking about?
He calls him a oh my God. What's the phrase I'm thinking of? Department of Truth is all about?
Conspiracy.
Yeah, he's like he's a conspiracy. He's a conspiracy. He like says that in the end. Yeah, I caught that the second time around. I didn't hear it the first time. But yeah, that was funny too.
I will have to say, I do have to say, there is a fun cultural nod to my Filipino heritage and yours too, Jason. Like when Ned's Lola came by.
Oh
yeah. In my head, I was like, I kind of understood like 80% of what she was saying, and I was like translating it for my friends. But I was like, I kind of like, I didn't know what cobwebs were. I didn't know how to translate that. That's like a really random word to say. But it is funny how like Toby and the grandma were just nodding at each other. But it's just like a grandma just telling people to clean up after themselves. I was like, wow, she's not fazed at all by like these random people from another universe just came by. She's just telling them clean up.
Yeah, that was great scene too. I forgot about that.
Toby's had moments in movies, I think in Spider-Man movies, where like old ladies smile at him and he smiles back or something. Like I feel like that's happened before because he has that.
What do they call him? A church pastor's like was that?
Oh yeah, priest son or something like that, or yeah. He's like, are you just going like that, or do you have? And he's like, no, I got that.
And I love how nonchalant he was. He was like, come on, bro, I got it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he's like, I got it.
Oh, that was great.
What did you guys think of I don't know if you guys want to cover this, but also the end credits.
Oh yeah, that's
yeah. Which one? The first or second one?
Yeah, well, yeah.
We could go through both because
let's do both.
Like, yeah.
So Haley, share. So what happened with the
Wait, no. Justin, you go first. You've been sending this off. I want to hear your thoughts first.
All right. So, wait, hold on. So let me make sure I have the right. So the ending one, the very end one was the trailer. Yeah. Okay. So the first one, so I don't know if I should say this or not on here, but I have not yet been able to see the new Venom Carnage film.
Oh shit!
I'm sorry.
What are you doing? You
Nah.
came
No,
into
I
this.
mean, honestly, I'd give you less shit about that than not seeing
Okay,
Spider-Man.
but you
3,
should have
like-
seen the new
Yeah.
Venom because it was so. I thought okay.
No, I
a
want to
lot of
see it.
people
I want to
thought
see it. I
was
just haven't had
crap.
it.
I feel like Jason's judging right now, but it's good. I liked it. If you go
It was
into it,
terrible.
okay.
Can I ask
Whatever.
those from New York?
I like the first
Is-
one.
is
the-
this-
the one.
I
Is
like the first
Tom
one.
Hardy's accent good at all? Like, is he supposed to be
As
from New
who,
York,
Venom?
going to San Francisco?
Oh, I have no idea about that.
Tom
about
Hardy
don't
is
know.
just
his accent.
Tom Hardy in every film.
Yeah,
Like
regardless.
but I
can do it
love
again.
him.
I like him. I like him
I
as
like
Venom.
him.
But so what Justin's point is, he didn't see the
So you didn't
post-credit scene.
So here's the thing, because I've heard that like that's
Hold on a
sort of
second.
how things end with, you know, he's left
100%.
in Mexico and all this other stuff, and yeah, so I kind of got that later, you know, as I've read up on some things and whatever. One of the things though, I will say, just from a standpoint of not knowing that Venom film, and just taking it for what it was, obviously there's still some big things to just take away from, even regardless of what you watched or didn't. The seeing the symbiote land on the table there at the end as it disappears. The funny thing too, like, or not funny thing, but the genius thing is the fact that they even brought him in. Like, I throughout this whole film didn't even think about Venom, didn't even think about like the fact that he should, or that they could use this opportunity to bring him in and flash him in, even if it was for a
I was
second.
like, where the hell is he at? I was
so
fucking excited about
well,
it.
so like
For
so
sure.
when I saw it, it definitely like took me by surprise. Where I'm like, you know, I got that feeling of like, oh yeah, that's right. So it was nice to see that. I like that was dropped. The other thing that stood out to me, I've shared this recently, been talking a lot about it over the past couple of months, but I am a huge Ted Lasso fan, and I don't know if you guys watched Ted Lasso, but yeah. So seeing Danny Rojas, who played the soccer player, yeah. So he's like one of my favorites, and I just love his energy. And so he was the bartender. Yeah. So for those who don't watch it, he was the bartender, and I really like that actor and what he plays in Ted Lasso. So for me, that was just another little extra of like, ooh, cool. We get to, you know, see Danny Rojas in here. That's not his real name. That's his name.
That's cool.
Ted Lasso. But that was a little extra that I didn't expect to see. I don't know if he's in Venom or not. That'd be cool too. But either way. But so that's my initial thought. Didn't see, you know, the actual Venom film. I do plan on seeing it. I like the first one. But I do like how that gave them the idea to throw the symbiote suit in. Now they can have this alien symbiote in the universe at some point. Now I do think though, and correct me if I'm wrong, whatever they do decide to do with that, Sony will be involved with that, right? Like they still own it, right? Okay, so it's really just a way to get it into the story more. So
but with No Way Home, they're on good terms. They like this now.
No, totally, which is great. I'm glad to hear that. But yeah, so that's I'm sure going to be something, you know, in the works years from now or whatever the case may be. But you know, definitely looking forward to that. So that's my initial thought there, Hailey. So I'll pass it back to you. What do what do you want to add to that, or what were your thoughts with this?
Yeah, I mean, I just thought it was. So I saw Venom, and so I was watching this whole film waiting for him, but I was also really curious as to how they were going to structure like bringing Tom Hardy and Venom, because like the whole Venom films with Tom Hardy, he's kind of like, he's bad, but he's good. He's mostly good. He has this like moral code, right? And Venom wants to eat everyone, but Tom Hardy himself is good. And so from what I at least know of the comics, which is like, again, not much, I just always pictured him as a villain. So just as I feel like they, like Jason was saying, they rebooted like Spider-Man at the end, you're like, okay, we're about to get like maybe OG Spider-Man because of like how that ended. I felt like this was such a good way to bring in Venom as the villain, because he left a piece of the symbiote there. Because I was like, how are you going to make Tom Hardy, like, you can't just like bring Tom Hardy and then just like make him an asshole for like the film, and then he's like fighting him or curing him because he wants to host Venom. So I was really interested, and I was also like, damn, they showed us that like clip at the end, and like we didn't get it until the absolute end of Spider-Man. I was like, that's a little bogus. Like
you wanted it earlier.
The shit out of that. Like
and they don't mention Venom. They do have a little joke about Venom when Toby describes that he fought an alien with black goo or whatever the case may be. But other than that, we don't get
something you wouldn't know of.
Any discuss. I do know. I have seen it.
That's so good.
Other than that, definitely thought it, you know, or we didn't get it any other time.
Yeah, so again, really smart.
Real quick, I want to add. So Honolurian he's been hanging out. Appreciate you hanging out here. Says I've been listening at the gym. By the way, in Daly City, California.
Daly City. I grew up in Daly.
Oh, there you go.
Oh,
That's
shit.
crazy.
Nice.
That's
So
crazy.
he says, yeah, not a Filipino, but a huge Filipino community here. Must have felt great seeing the representation. I know I did. So one thing to add too, and what you had mentioned, we can go back to this Venom stuff. But I just wanted to say, so I was born in the Philippines, 100% Filipino from what I know. I was adopted though. So when I was adopted, I basically grew up in an Italian family. So because of this, I have like very, very little experience of being around anything of that nature. So when you brought up with the grandmother, like I totally missed that, or I didn't like think of it in that sense of the culture with some of the stuff. So that's kind of a bummer on my part, or not to be able to kind of experience that. But very interesting, and I just wanted to highlight that. So Honolurian, thank you for hanging out with
thanks
us.
for bringing that up. That's where I grew up. Like Daly City is
cool,
where
Nice.
I grew up. That's crazy.
That's so cool.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
So I'll pass it back to either Alan or Jason if you wanted to add on to what Hailey had mentioned with that ending, that first ending that we caught after credit scene.
Well, I think I said this to you in the theater, like the whole like Tom Holland got like 3 movies left, the last trilogy left, right? He said himself, he doesn't want to do this after 30, like he got, that he doesn't want to do it after 30. So like I was telling you how like I could see the 3-movie trilogy where he has no one right now, right? And he's like at his lowest and like he's real effed up. And like the symbiote, as comic readers know, it like takes advantage of those emotions and like really like amplifies like anger and like all that stuff. So it's perfect for setting that up and like introducing characters like Black Cat, like another female character that could be a love interest possibly, because
that's right.
I think MJ's either written off permanently or maybe in like a bookmark or something, but as far as we know, it's like written off. So like we could introduce these other characters like Craven, like we got teased with Craven and Rhino silhouettes in the multiverse cracking. And I know Craven's, there's a lot of rumors with Craven movie going on with Sony and like, the relationship they have. So like I could definitely see like a very bright future as far as like there's no shortage of ideas for this trilogy, and I think they're gonna make it as even better than No Way Home, even though it's hard because bringing in these other Spider-Man was just really cool, right? But, But there's a lot of things they can do, and I think the way the MCU is going as far as big picture wise with like Secret Wars stuff going on, I think like this is like a really, really bright future, like I said, as far as Spider-Man goes, with what could potentially happen.
I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah.
Yes, I mean, and plus the fact that he's obviously Spider-Man being the number one character, he is the Batman of their company. Seeing how this one ended, and I would hope obviously that they're going to continue to tie certain aspects of the character in, and as you mentioned, some of these other characters that like Black Cat, that'd be really cool to kind of see some of those. And as you also brought up Secret Wars, I do see some people chiming in about Secret Wars as well. So I know there's been a lot of rumors about that potentially going in that direction. That would be wild as well. Aggressively relaxed and also mentioning Garfield getting his alien fight. Bringing up Alan, anything else you wanted to add to kind of what we're talking about here with Venom or the ending of that?
So Jason, I'm glad you brought up Secret Wars, because like if you think about it, when Iron Man 1 came out, no one thought that it was going to end after like 20 movies into like this kind of big like compilation of everyone. But yeah, Secret Wars would be a perfect thing. Introduce symbiote into this like MCU world, and then like however movies from now, just combine whatever they have at that point. But one of the things that I wanted to bring up and ask you guys is, it was funny when Tom Hardy was talking about like Lethal Protector and just making fun of like all of like these random comic like references in there. And of course, like coming from the Bay Area, I'm a Dubs fan, so glad he was wearing the Warriors shirt and his like kind of random New York accent. But one of the things was like is Tom Hardy. I feel like he's more of like an Andrew Garfield Spider-Man universe character than like
There's
a
been
like
rumors with that, with the fan base going nuts, like to continue give them an extra movie,
Give him a third,
give him a third movie, to give him his trilogy, and like I've heard things like that. That would be so cool.
Yeah,
that would be really cool. That's what I would like to see. I'd like to see something with Garfield closing it up with like, even if he's cameos in the Venom third movie to close things up for both of them. That would be pretty cool.
The future's bright.
But then
Anything
also
can
leave the Venom in this universe, and then they could do whatever they want to. People are saying, "Oh, is Ned gonna be like symbiote?" And I was like, "Dude, Ned's not gonna be a villain. We'll see what happens, but we'll see." Yeah.
People love Ned.
People love Ned.
Yeah.
But hold on. With that though, with like the future of that, right? I wanted to add to this. I guess this is like a theory, but I really wanted to point this out because, like, I don't know. I'm sure a bunch of other people have thought the same thing, because anyone with a smidge of comic knowledge and just logical thinking can put these theories together, right? But like the whole Miles Morales thing, right? The whole nod Jamie Foxx gave.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Talking about a black Spider-Man, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
obviously that's a tease for the future. We're getting Miles, like that's 100%. Right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I was hoping it was going to be in this one. I was like, oh, would they do that? They wouldn't do that.
So
I would have heard about it. I feel like I would have heard about it.
I have this theory, which would be so freaking cool, but like chances are probably not. But then again, who knows? So like, Sam Raimi directed Spider-Man 1, 2, and 3, the Tobey Maguire trilogy, right? And Tobey Maguire came back for this movie, right? And Sam Raimi is directing Doctor Strange, right? And I don't know if you guys have seen, but a lot of, even with Spider-Man No Way Home, there was a lot of reshoots with specific cameos. In my opinion, I think Garfield and Tobey Maguire got convinced a little later on, after the movie was being developed and like shot already, and they were like, all right, let's do it. And then they did some reshoots, right? So there's a lot of similar things going on. I heard with Doctor Strange, like reshoots right now, right? So my theory is the whole thing with Miles, if they're gonna be comic accurate, and Feige he loves the comics. He's a comic fan. So the whole Miles Morales story is in the Ultimate Universe. He sees Peter Parker die. You know, Peter Parker's dead in his universe, and that's what inspires him to take up the mantle, right? So being a comic fan as Feige and having the relationship with Sony and everything now, I think that possibly in May, when we get Doctor Strange 2, we could possibly get like a Tobey cameo, right? Of him in his universe or something. And we get introduced to like a Miles, like Miles as just Miles, not Spider-Man, nothing. And we see Tobey die, and we see, it would make sense because Raimi directed 1, 2, and 3. And then with him, if he died, he would be the one directing his death, and it would just be like a poetic kind of like ribbon that's tied. That's like, you know, and Tobey's old, you know. Garfield can get another movie, but Tobey got his trilogy, and like he's done. You know, I don't think he's gonna want to come back. If anything, this I could see, and like he dies, let's say, right? And then Miles sees that, and we get like a Miles cameo, and we let that like linger, and then later on when we get Secret, because Secret Wars is Jonathan Hickman's Secret Wars is exactly how Miles came into the 616 universe. So we let that linger. We let that Miles little tease linger, and other movies go on. Kang comes in, stuff goes on, and then Secret Wars happens, and then all these multiverse things merge, and we get Miles in our universe, and then Tom Holland gives him, you know, the mantle of Spider-Man eventually, and you know. It makes sense.
Oh, that would be cool. That would be
You're just blowing my mind with all of these theories. I'm like,
totally.
Holy shit!
The reason I think that's gonna happen though is because of the reshoots with Doctor Strange right now, and the fact that Raimi directed 1, 2, and 3, and the comic accuracy of how Miles would come. They're not gonna kill Tom right now. You know what I mean? So like, it would make sense for them to poetically kill off Tobey in a Raimi movie, with the multiverse happening, and then introduce Miles and just leave that bookmarked for later on, and then, you know,
everyone bookmark this video. Yeah, you're gonna look back at this video.
Because there's a million fans with the same idea, thinking anyone with a smidge of comic knowledge can think of this, but like that's what I've been thinking this whole time. This whole time,
that's
I'm
awesome.
hoping for that.
That's amazing.
Next year.
All right, Jason. All right, Jason. What books do we buy next then? No, I'm just
no. He said none of that. If anything, Secret Wars, right? That's the thing. You know? But that's my theory. That's my theory.
I love it. Love it. Big shout out here to a couple people. I see my man David hanging out with us. Good to see you, David. I also saw Extreme hanging out with us, who said, I think Ned's going to turn on Peter. He got the magic powers and stuff now, just like he said he wasn't. He was in the lab with the other Spider-Man. Anyways, that's my thoughts. Certainly respect your opinion there. I mean, who knows, what direction things could go. I mean, I'm a big fan of Ned. I don't know if they would necessarily turn him evil, but either way, Extreme, appreciate you swinging by, hanging out with us here. Let's see. Let me another.
It would be wild if they turned Ned on Tom or Peter, because of how much they also emphasize, like, he was like, I would never kill you. I would never.
I forgot who he was. I could see that though. I could see that.
Yeah, that's definitely
to bring it.
The Hobgoblin coming.
Yeah, to bring it all together.
So,
plus he got in shape, Jacob. He got in shape. So, like, you know what I mean? Like, people were expecting it too.
So one question too, with the idea of this ending, the initial ending of the film, where Doctor Strange, he removes the thought of no one knows who Peter Parker is, essentially. So some of the things that like cross my mind is like, as that happens, like Doctor Strange, and I'm probably being nitpicky here, but like, wouldn't he still be in the air floating? He just did this massive spell. He removes this thought, but then would he just forget the very thing he just did? Or like, would he be like, okay, I know what I did. I know I casted a spell for all of us to forget X, like forget blank. Like, wouldn't he just be like questioning that at that point, or like wondering?
Like that's the territory of like comic bookness of like,
okay,
yeah, do you know what I mean? Like, what are you gonna do?
And again, I know I'm probably and I don't mean to be nitpicky, but that was
no, be nitpicky.
The
valid point. I mean, like,
well, the other thing too is with Ned, if we're talking about like him, potentially whatever coming back or being a villain or whatever, if they don't know who Peter Parker is, doesn't Ned still have the memory of him with Doctor Strange and opening up portals and all this other crazy stuff, even though all he did was remove Peter Parker, right? The idea of who Peter Parker is, his identity, the name, all that is gone.
But then would it be tangentially anything that has to do with Peter Parker? Because then that would make sense. So like all of these other things, because then he leaves when they're on this. But isn't it at the end he leaves whatever place that they're at before anyone can like see him? So like maybe Doctor Strange realizes they did that, like he did this thing, some spell, and people are there, but they don't have a memory of it. And obviously if they don't have a memory, he can't like recall that he did it for Peter.
Right. Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. Like, so he wouldn't know why he even did it. But I also just like that moment too of just like, why are we standing here? Why am I up here? Why am I floating in the air? Ned, MJ just standing on the destruction of this whole thing. Like that didn't necessarily go away, right? Like, and I mean, don't they still know they still know Spider-Man. The world still knows Spider-Man, because Jameson even says that, like, Spider-Man, come out and tell the truth. Who are you? So it's not like no one knows who a Spider-Man is. Like they know Spider-Man exists. They know that he never showed his face. So this was like a little hole that I felt was like, I was just, questioning of like, Ned, even like with MJ getting the cut on her head, like it shouldn't mean that she necessarily forgets that she got the cut on her head and like, or like how she got the cut on her head. She must be thinking like, okay, all I can remember is Spider-Man was involved. There was a bunch of people who came here from other, like, would she still remember this whole thing? Would they at least remember Doctor Strange? Like that they had that they were in his house even and hanging out and all this other stuff, even if Peter Parker's removed.
Plot holes for sure.
That was just something that crossed my mind.
No, it
definitely is music.
This movie ain't perfect, It definitely those things like that. It definitely.
I'm partially asking because I want to make sure I wasn't like missing something obvious or like
an
explanation that you're just like,
if Peter Parker himself was there and not Spider-Man, then they probably forget it. It's like how I take it. And then if it's Spider-Man who's like, on his web, then maybe they because if the world remembers Spider-Man, but that makes me also question like, does Doctor Strange remember Spider-Man helping throughout all of the previous films, or is he like absolutely erased from essentially everything that we've watched? Like,
Yeah.
are we starting? Is it like an actual true reboot, as Jason was saying? Like,
Yeah, like
moving forward?
do the Avengers remember that Spider-Man was part of their team at one point and all this
Yeah.
other stuff, or do they not remember that? Is that just
My guess is that they don't think they are, but I think this opens up like a cool new path where they're like, oh, is there a character that lives outside of all of these like memory block dimensions, right? That makes me think of like, what's her name? Madam Web, right? She's supposed to be the one that has to do with like all of this multiverse Spider-Man people. So I feel like this would be a cool way to bring those type of magical characters in that might be, immune to this type of like kind of memory loss.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Interesting.
Madam Webby, I didn't even think of that.
Yeah.
But
That's
isn't
really cool.
at the end when we get the Doctor Strange trailer,
Oh yeah,
like
that's good.
he's like,
Oh yeah,
he's
let's talk about
told,
that trailer.
yeah,
let's
let's
talk
talk
about
about that. But he was
Crazy.
he was like he's basically getting reprimanded for making this spell. So I think there has to be some kind of memory of like, you fucked everything up. And like maybe you don't realize like to what extent, but
Yeah, I would think they're asking him to explain himself. Like, Doctor Strange, why did you cast the spell that you
Yeah.
cast? And he's just like, well, I don't know.
oh my gosh,
I just don't remember.
trailer. I
Like,
wasn't expecting a whole
convenience.
trailer.
Or like
Convenience.
I wasn't expecting a whole trailer either. I thought it was just gonna be another tiny, mini clip or whatever. So that's a little new that they've been doing that as giving a full trailer or whatever.
Was
I know, Jason, you
that
said
in
you
the
knew it was
Kang
coming.
room? I didn't know this, but I wanted to ask you guys: did they film that in the
I
Kang
wasn't
room?
sure.
Yo, right?
Good
The
point.
4 tower things. Like,
Yeah, was that in
Yes.
there?
I don't know, but
Maybe?
I was like, it was a strong maybe.
Okay.
I mean,
Strong maybe.
it certainly is arguable. Like, you could say, we
Because it
want to
looks
see
like
that
it was like
come
at
back,
the end of time when they like open that door. Is that what you're talking about? That scene where they
Yeah,
open the door
yeah.
to him, America Chavez, and then you're just like, also, I can't fucking wait for
Yo,
her. Oh
I
my
am
god!
so hyped for that character to come into this universe.
Oh
yo.
my
America
God.
Chavez, she is.
Yeah.
What's it called? If you guys haven't read the Ultimates run by Al Ewing,
I
it
have
really it deals with like the multiverse and stuff, and like
Oh my
really
God.
fleshes out like
Need to put on my TBR.
write it down, Hailey.
like
Write
her
it down.
powers and stuff. She's overpowered as hell. Like, not only can she make those portals through different universes, but she's just overpowered in general. And I'm just excited for her because they picked a young actress to stay. I'm assuming for multiple
Mhm.
film
cool.
shows and all that to connect with Young Avengers and stuff. And like I'm excited for her future, honestly, because I love her character.
Mhm.
So cool.
Yeah. Real quick, this is another great point too to what we were talking about earlier. Candace is saying, plus, how do they explain Aunt May's death if there's no Peter Parker? Happy knows he knew maybe through Spider-Man. They even mentioned that, like, he's like, how did you know her? I knew through Spider-Man, like when they're standing at her
Yeah.
grave or whatever. But
But
even
then that means like Peter Parker is not remembered, but Spider-Man is. So that makes sense. So like there's some
Right.
connection, but
yeah.
That's
But
a
I
good
just
point.
wonder if like they would check and be if there were records of like. Well, I guess not. I don't know. I'm just trying to think like if people who knew Aunt May, they're just like, oh yeah, and she had a nephew. Don't know
but
what
she
happened
wouldn't
there.
have remembered that she had a nephew.
She wouldn't, but,
Everything
like,
went-
But maybe
then
like her friends or like I don't know. I'm going really.
maybe she
deep
had
here.
interaction. Like I imagine it as like she had to like anyone he had interaction with, it would have just been remembered the moments as he was Spider-Man.
Just Spider-Man, yeah.
Mhm.
Because I don't know. I guess I don't really remember if there was like any moment where he just has the mask on and is around Aunt May. I'm sure that's definitely happened in all three movies, but I don't really remember that.
Yeah.
And it's just Aunt May bringing these random like 5 villains into Happy's house.
Remember that time? Yeah, good times. We all had salt
Good
water.
times.
It was great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Candace,
Comics.
same. I need to go read all of the Spider-Man now.
Yeah, I echo Candace here as well.
But wait, Wanda's new suit in that trailer,
Oh yeah.
she looked crazy.
I am
Yeah,
She looked crazy.
So good.
freaking love
So
Wanda. I'm
excited.
just like very curious as to I was talking to Jason about this, like where they're gonna take her. And I just like in the comics, so much of like she ends up as like either this like kind of villain or she's crazy and she can't control her powers. She ends up basically committing genocide. And so I'm curious how far they're going to take her storyline and push it. I feel like they could really go for it. And then we get, I mean, if they do, then we get X-Men. Then we get X-Men.
With her.
We're definitely getting the mutants.
That's all I want. Honestly, like as much as I love Wanda, if her demise has to come at the expenses of we get the mutants into this MCU, then like I'm really here for it. But I love her character so much, and that's just going to be so devastating.
So I think she's gonna be portrayed kind of a villain in the beginning or something, and like, and then not, because she's just trying to find her kids, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Get her kids back. And I think that's, you know, she's gonna get her kids, and then they're gonna be plopped back into the universe again as real people, and then, you know, join the other youngins and whatnot.
I don't know. I feel like that's so optimistic, though. I feel like they're just gonna go. I don't know. I feel like they might.
I mean, they might not. I get very wrong, but it's definitely gonna be a good movie, regardless. With what's his name, Evil Strange. You know,
he looks so cool.
What if Strange?
That's cool.
Oh yeah, so Jason,
I don't know if they're connecting that.
I was gonna mention that. So you said something in the theater, and I didn't quite hear you, but I did hear you say something about what if. So can you elaborate on that? Because I didn't know what you were talking about with the what if.
Yeah, you watched that. You watched What If with the evil Doctor Strange episode, and even at the end, you didn't watch that shit.
Justin.
Jeez.
Oh man! Back here and answer for your sins.
You really didn't watch that?
I am on episode 3. I'm on episode 3 for What If.
Keep going.
Okay, here's my secret. Everybody asks me how I keep up and read so many comic books. Is because I don't take time to watch things. Instead of watching, I read, and that's why I'm ahead with a lot of the books that I read.
This is a cop out.
So I'm just saying, I gotta decide. And yes, football plays a role. It's football.
Listen,
give me a break, people. It's football.
Sundays.
I got my Ravens Santa hat on, so you know.
Listen, you already got spoiled. So can I just tell you, kind of?
Yeah, I guess.
Some parts.
No.
How are you not spoiled at this part?
I told you I have really good I follow a lot of really good people who just respect and don't spoil anything.
But it's been like literal months.
Except Jason, who's about to drop some knowledge.
Literal months.
Well, there's an Evil Strange, right? You saw that in the trailer we watched in the theater, right? So damn, I can't believe you didn't watch What If. All right, so like I'm not gonna spoil what happens in the episode.
It's on my list. It's on my list.
Obviously,
I'm 2 episodes behind. I'm 2 episodes behind on the Hawkeye as well. So put me down for that as well.
Oh damn, you're behind. Damn,
you gotta watch. You gotta watch Hawkeye. This last week.
Watch Hawkeye before you watch What If.
I'm sure the episode tomorrow is gonna have an amazing reveal. Even
I'm sure it is.
Listen,
but I know the people I follow are not gonna spoil it, so I'm in faith. Good faith.
I'm not gonna spoil it. But that What If episode, there's obviously an evil Doctor Strange, like I mentioned, right? I could say that, right? I'm not gonna say how it ends, but
that's fine. That's fine. I agree with Gore, by the way.
I won't tell you how.
I'm hiring Matt Murdock.
Okay, so you don't want to hear this?
No, go ahead.
I won't tell you how it ends, but it ends in a way where it can go somewhere. Is my point. So like that's why people were thinking it could be a connection.
See, so like me watching that back, like it didn't hit in that sense. It still hit in the sense of like, cool, there's this evil Doctor Strange coming along, and that's all I'm hyped for. Like but I'm still hyped. You know?
No, yeah.
Wait, that's why I actually asked Justin. He froze. Yeah, but I asked Justin.
Wait, that's like the most perfect stance.
He did that on purpose.
Hang on.
Just so he didn't have to answer questions.
There we are. Nah, sorry, I froze. But you know what I'm saying? Like I was still excited. I was still pumped for that. Sorry, did I cut out? Or I cut out, but what?
No, it was like the most perfect. It was like.
Yeah, you're good.
Can't wait to watch the replay of all this. But yeah. So, anyways, I can't wait for it. I'm still down for it, and he looked badass. Doctor Strange, the dark Doctor Strange or whatever, all in black and all this stuff. I have a curveball that I want to throw you guys, and and this is something that I think Jason, you had brought up in the theater, and it was, and I wrote this down as one of my notes, and this definitely going to go a different direction. I know we're over the almost a 2 hour mark, so I appreciate everybody hanging. I'm going to throw this out there anyways. And again, if you guys need to jump, just tell me if you need to step out.
Continue pouring wine.
Yeah, go for it.
Do it.
Go for it. I still have a glass of mine going.
It's fine.
Keep it going. Keep it going. So the other question, the thing that you had mentioned, Jason, was let's talk about Wong for a second. So we get a few moments with Wong. I actually wish that we saw more of him throughout that, and a lot of comedic moments there in the beginning, seeing him at the house. You had mentioned, Jason, that you asked, or you pointed out, like, where did he go when he left?
Yeah.
And we were trying to look in. Yeah, we were trying to look inside the thing. Yeah, and we thought maybe it was Shang-Chi of some sort. So I wanted to ask Alan and Hailey if you guys caught any of that or have any thoughts of that. And then, of course, Jason, anything to also add on to your point that you had brought up to me.
Was he wearing a winter coat in Shang-Chi? I don't remember if he was. I don't think he was.
The reason he's wearing the coat is because there's a blizzard in the sanctum. Come on, man. It's cold inside.
So he's cold for the blizzard, but then he's like going off to do something else.
Watch the movie though.
There's snow in the sanctum.
Could have been warm snow.
But no, it kind of looked like the last portal he took, where he was like, "All right, you do what you got to do." It looked very Asian, like the structures looked very Asian to me. So I assume.
It would make sense if he didn't come back to save the planet, because he is like, Sorcerer Supreme at that point.
Yeah, he's doing
because like he's checking out the rings. They're like alien origin, and like he's trying to figure that out. So
that's a good point. Yeah,
and this is what I love about how they are really taking strong elements of comic book storytelling, is that they easily could go off and do a whole long, show or movie or whatever.
Please give me that. That's I want that.
And it could be like
Wong is 10 times better than the comics. The comics Wong is just shit.
I believe that, like 100%.
It isn't very.
I believe that.
I'm just thinking, how they put in the captions of like, make sure you go back and check out issue number whatever, and it's referencing that moment or whatever.
Yeah.
So maybe we get like a moment like that where we see a Wong film, and that's that we're gonna connect that, like, okay, so that's where Wong ended up leaving off, and that's why he wasn't even back to help Doctor Strange get out of the mess that he had created.
Exactly. I was like, where is he? Like, he wasn't even coming back to help.
Yeah.
Because
you're right. Yeah.
At the end of even like Shang-Chi, there's like an allude to like Eternals essentially. On top of it, in a way, right? The rings are like vibrating to like a different.
Something's calling.
Something's calling bigger, to the Eternals. And in my mind, like everything that's happening in this film, No Way Home, is not like it's not until like a bigger. It is like multi-universal, right? You have like everyone like popping in, but when I think about maybe what he's dealing with, it's like more. It's just larger. If he's like popping in, he's like, you do whatever the hell you're going to do. And like, I'm going to handle like these bigger picture situations, especially because the Eternals just happened.
Yep. Maybe he went to Ta Lo. Isn't that a whole nother dimension that they're in? So maybe he was like, you don't know what's going on. And he's like, he's in that dimension or whatever.
There's so many moving parts at this point in the MCU that I feel like you could go in and you could go to Ta Lo. You could do all this stuff with the Eternals that's happening. You're like, and it would feel really big
too, that they're building and with these shows like Hawkeye with the
that's
we got.
Cool.
Now,
Justin, I just need you to watch Hawkeye so I could like express.
All right, that's the top of my list, followed by Spider-Man 3.
Yeah, what if needs to move to the bottom? You've had many months to watch What If.
I was waiting for when I was first asking about that the hole that we were figuring out. I was waiting for Jason to just come in and be like, "Well, here's how it all makes sense. You didn't see 3, and 3 explains all of that, like everything." Yeah. Every question you just asked is all.
Wong actually came from Spider-Man 3. If you didn't realize,
I just can't believe you watched No Way Home, looking at Sandman, looking like, huh? All right,
okay,
because I've seen him. It just wasn't
some dude.
Yeah, he's got sand. Yeah, I didn't even know. Yeah. I just know him from the comics, which is a spoiler in its own right. Reading the comics. All right. Appreciate everybody hanging with us. Thank you all so much. I know we're getting close to come on. My thing just
Chat.
skipped again. Am I back? All right, I'm back.
Yeah, you're
I can-
back. You're back.
I can see my connection is like it says it's
It's
unstable
telling you
right now.
it's time to go to bed.
Yeah, it is. I have to get up early tomorrow.
Spider-Man 3.
Yeah, let me go do that.
Yeah.
First. I'm gonna wrap this up here, just for time and everything being on the East Coast. But I appreciate the three of you doing this with me, and I feel like we should do this again. That's
More.
for something else.
Yes.
Yeah,
Do this
more.
for
Yes,
Spider-Man
more.
3, huh? Once you
we can do it for
Spider-Man 3.
the movie the
I
movie
will
review
100%
crew.
rewatch that shit. If
I
we
would
get
do
to
that. I
all
love that
review
movie.
it,
I'm
I
hyped.
would
I
love
love
it.
that movie.
We're all gonna travel back in time.
Justin,
and
we're
talk
all
about it.
here for you, and tomorrow we
appreciate
support
that.
you through this journey.
Thank you so much. Hey, I'm willing to express and admit this stuff. You know, that's the first step, right? It's just admitting it.
Exactly.
Yeah. So hey, we got Miss So in the house. Hello, Miss So.
Hey, Miss
Hello.
Thanks for stopping by. Happy holidays. Yeah, so like I said, we have 10 people hanging. Thank you all so much who are in the chat right now or who have kind of been in and out. We appreciate you hanging out with us here during this kind of just hangout, which has just been a blast. So again, thank you to the three of you, Alan, Hailey, Jason. I mean, we should certainly do something like this again soon. Obviously, I chose you three because we get along very well, and on top of that, just being able to talk about the stuff that we love, including this particular film, has just been a blast. So I want to thank each of you for joining me here tonight. And of course, if you're watching this now, or if you're on the replay and you're not subbed up to these people, or you're not following them over on Instagram, go do that, and not just follow them, but reach out to them, talk comics, talk movies, and just have a good time, because we have a great community here. And again, just appreciate everybody that's been hanging out with us throughout this time. So again, can't thank you guys enough. I did want to do like I don't know if we have time for it, but I did want to do like just a final thoughts or any other last minute words just in general that each of you kind of want to say before we kind of close out here. We'll go back around here. So Hailey, I'll throw it to you first. It's just kind of a closeout. Anything. It could be movie related or holiday related or anything like that. Feel free to kind of.
Oh, final thoughts. Go watch Spider-Man if you haven't watched Spider-Man.
I thought you were gonna say go watch Spider-Man 3.
That's it.
Go watch Spider-Man. Go watch Hawkeye, because Hawkeye is just actually
man.
surpassing all
Yeah.
expectations, to be
Cool.
honest. And I hope everyone
Fire.
has a wonderful holiday season. Happy New Year. All of it. Really here for it all.
Awesome. Love it. Alan, I'll pass it over to you, my friend.
Yeah, thank you all for joining us today, and thanks for having me on this panel. Definitely, I second Hailey's comment. Watch No Way Home, watch all the Spider-Man, and then just re-enjoy it all. And happy holidays to everyone. So, thank you.
Nicely said. And Jason, any final thoughts here for you, my friend?
Just reiterating what these two fine panel members have said. Go watch
They're going to say the F word there. Man, it's East Coast time. Jason's tired.
Yeah, no, I mean, I try to keep things clean. I curse a lot. I'm from Jersey. I curse a lot.
You've been doing good. You've been doing good tonight. Yeah.
But no, thank you for joining us. Had a blast chatting. Spider-Man and Justin. Just go watch that movie.
Yeah, man, on the list. Mm-hmm. Well, again, thank you all. Make sure you, everyone in the chat right now, smash the like button. If you're watching the replay, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this 2-hour replay. Really do appreciate that. And who knows, maybe we collaborate. We do something like this again, as we just mentioned. Would be a lot of fun. You guys were a lot of fun. Yeah,
I'm honestly down. I'm really
list.
down for that.
Well, I'm excited. All right, gang. We are gonna wrap it up here. So again, thank you all for watching. Feel free to leave a comment. Smash that like button, and Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, all that good stuff. Obviously, we are just a couple days away. I was just rapping before we went live, or before I was live with John. But yeah, a lot of fun stuff going on here. So yeah, but yeah, so clearly have a lot to catch up on. So until then, I will leave you with this. Make sure, let's bring it back to comics. Make sure you pick up Nightwing, the new Nightwing, and the new Supergirl. Woman of Tomorrow, because
yes,
I read both of them and they are fantastic, and those are my recommendations. I've been very DC heavy recently. So anyways, gonna wrap it up. So y'all have a great night, and we will talk to you later.